Minute while I check roll. Great. Okay, we'll begin with Resolution RS 2016-125, sponsors Allen and Elrod. This authorizes the Escape Game LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 162 3rd Avenue North. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 11. Approved. Next is RS 2016-126, sponsors Allen and Elrod. This authorizes Martin's Barbecue Joint to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 410 4th Avenue South. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution is recommended. Next is Resolution RS 2016-127, sponsors Allen and Elrod. This authorizes the Nashville Baseball Development LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at Stockyard Street for an elevated pedestrian bridge across Whiteside Avenue. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Next is Bill BL 2016-125, sponsors are Karen Johnson and Blaylock. This amends the Metro Code to designate additional geographic areas as rental inspection districts. Do we have Councilmember Johnson or Blaylock here? We will move that to the Hill. Next is BL 2016-126. This authorizes the acquisition of property for expansion of the Martin Luther King Jr. Academic Magnet School. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Against? Next is BL 2016-127, sponsors Pridemore. This authorizes the disposition and licensing of surplus property for temporary use pending its disposition. I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next is BL 2016-128, sponsors Pridemore and others. This authorizes the exchange of surplus property to be used for the Public Works Department's Division Street Extension Project. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Opposed? Like sign. Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-129, sponsors Rosenberg, Pridemore, and others. This authorizes Metro to acquire permanent and temporary easements to construct the Davidson Branch Equalization Facility for property located at 6924 Charlotte Pike. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion is recommended. Next is BL 2016-130, sponsors Sledge and Elrod. This authorizes the Metro government to abandon an existing water main and to accept a new water main, fire hydrant, and permanent easements for property located at 101 Terminal Court. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Next is BL 2016-131, sponsors Elrod and others. This abandons a portion of Korean Veterans Boulevard, formerly known as Franklin Street, right away. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2015-53, sponsors Hagar. This makes provisions to 130 acres of the contextual overlay district to various properties located along Berry Street, Birdsall Street, Bryan Street, Clark Street, Cleve Street, Cunningham Street, DeBow Street, Dodson Street, Donaldson Avenue, 8th Street, 11th Street, Elliston Street, 14th Street, Fowler Street, Fuller Street, Hadley Avenue, Jones Street, Lawrence Street, Livingston Street, Merritt Street, 9th Street, Old Hickory Boulevard, Overton Street, 13th Street, and Turner Street. I have a letter to approve, and the sponsor is here. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Passes. I moved you to the hill. We'll come back to you. Next is Substitute Bill 2015-54, sponsor Scott Davis. This changes .37 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for property located at 1436 Lishy Avenue to permit up to 2 residential units. There has been a site plan that was provided in the amendments packet. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilmember Davis, do you want to say anything? All right. Councilmember Johnson. Whoops, I turned you off, sorry. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask planning to refresh our memory. It was disapproved at the Planning Commission and the reason, and then I will make some comment.
Sure. This was recommended for disapproval in July, or actually in August of last year, with the main concern being the massing and spacing along that street, and that the plan proposed at the time didn't fit the character of the street with regards to massing and spacing of units.
Thank you. Since then, I understand the house was 3 units, now reduced to 2 units. However, the spacing might be still the same. Would you approve this house was coming back to the planning?
So we've really only looked at this in the last day or so. The plan has not been reviewed by other metro agencies or by the planning staff. So I can't really speak to what our formal recommendation would be since we haven't reviewed it. However, we would still look to the same things given the neighborhood maintenance policy that covers that area. So it's conceivable the same concerns could still stand.
Thank you. I would like to ask Bill's sponsor if he would entertain the idea of sending this site plan to a planning commission.
Mr. Davis.
This is the thing, all right? When planning, and if I'm wrong, Brandon and Lisa, please correct me, okay? I won't be mad, I promise, okay? Planning looks at the policy. The policy is neighborhood maintenance. Even though every house on that street is a duplex or a triplex along that 1400 block. This original house was a duplex that burned down. They were not grandfathered because it's been over 7 years since it was burned down. It was tied up in probate court. It's a huge lot. It's almost 3 times the size of a normal 50 by 100 lot. That is the norm in my district. Now, having that duplex burned down, the neighbors were more than happy to allow this new potential owner to build back 2 units. They didn't want 3, and their voices were heard, and so they met and they said 2 will be fine because this is that road where I have those 70s brick duplexes, which, you know, a couple of them are owned by MDHA and other members, and across the street I have a set of triplexes from the 70s. 2 new family homes will be a welcome addition to this vacant lot. Now, planning has to enforce a policy which is negative, which is neighborhood maintenance, and to put 1 single family house back there, even though it was originally a duplex, in the midst of those triplexes or duplexes on that street. And because the overlying policy is RS5, even though the policy was changed, those brick 70s duplexes have been remaining there since the 70s. The policy was changed in 2002, I believe, to RS5, which was RS6 originally back in the day. So now, as a neighborhood, even though it may not fit planning's policy, which respectfully I disagree, but I'd rather 2 new houses than this huge burnt out empty lot that collects trash that I have to have Public Works and my neighbors to clean up. And they'll look much better than those 70s duplexes and triplexes on that street. So I respectfully disagree with my colleagues on planning, but it would make a nice, finer addition to that street, and my neighbors agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sledge?
Yes, I wanted to let the sponsor know I was in the odd situation of I have constituents in my district who had property near this particular lot, and when it was changed and it went from 3 to 2, they expressed to me that they were in support of this legislation. So I wanted to thank the sponsor because we did, as a committee, ask him to resubmit and submit a site plan, and he's done that, and I feel comfortable both from my constituents' standpoint and my own in supporting this substitute.
Thank you. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what we're voting on. And I believe the sponsor has already addressed this with the numerous emails that our body has received as it relates to this. So these units have gone down from 3 to 2, correct? And the sponsor has already addressed what we asked for previously of him in committee. I'm fine with this as well.
Any other council members wishing to speak? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
I'm sorry. Did someone else wish to speak?
Yes.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry. Yes, with all due respect to the bill sponsor, and I understand the house was reduced from 3 units to 2, and some of the neighbors are supporting. I understand that. However, in the larger community plan and zoning point of view, to me, this is spot zoning, because surrounding area are pretty much single family, and in that orientation, this new house orientation is somewhat different. So for that reason, I stand up in opposition.
Thank you. Any other council members wishing to speak? So we'll redo that vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Raise your hand. Okay, so 9 to 2. Thank you for that thoughtful discussion. Next is BL 2015-86. Sponsor is Mina Johnson. This changes 246 acres from R15 and R20 to SP for properties located at 326 Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, and Highway 70 unnumbered, to permit the additional disturbance of the natural landscape to a maximum of 14 acres to permit up to 360 multifamily residential units. There is a proposed substitute. Councilmember Johnson, can you tell us about that?
Yes, Madam Chair. This substitute will address 2 things. One is not necessarily typo, but ever since after we introduced the bill, one parcel was sold to different entity, and then that parcel has its own parcel number. So just to be clear, the parcel is included to this SP zoning. We clean up the bill and introduced a substitute. Also, another one this substitute is addressing is SP standard. This SP is a rather unique SP. As of right now, we do not have any developer who will come and develop this land. So typically, SP will have a specific condition, but this SP does not have a specific condition, rather a specific development guideline. And in this bill, we used our imagination of what kind of development will be appropriate in limited 14 acres area, so that this substitute will address those every single appropriate development guideline.
Thank you. So do you want to move the substitute?
Yes, I would like to move substitute.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? All right. Thank you. Next is BL 2015-87. Sponsors Mina Johnson. This cancels 246 acres of the Nashville Highlands Planned Unit Development Overlay District for properties located at 326 Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, and Highway 70 unnumbered. There is, again, a proposed substitute. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Again, this substitute will address the little additional parcel number which was not included in the original bill, and wanted to make sure the additional parcel now has a specific number is included in this bill.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Yes, and then I ask to move substitute.
Okay. It's been moved, seconded. Great. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2015-97. Sponsor is Kendall. This changes .21 acres from IR to MULA zoning for property located at 2611 Clifton Avenue. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2015-98. Sponsor is Kendall. This changes .69 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 3005 Delaware Avenue and 508 31st Avenue North to permit up to 17 residential units. I have a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-104. Sponsor is Hastings. This changes .34 acres from RS10 to CSA zoning for property located at 329 Homestead Road. I do not have a letter. Is Councilmember Hastings in the building anywhere? All right, I'll move it to the Hill. If somebody will go look for him, we'll do it later. Next is BL 2016-105, sponsored by Councilmember Scott Davis. This changes .82 acres from R6 to MULA zoning for property located at 1077 East Trinity Lane. And sponsor is here. Do I have a motion? And a second. It's been moved and seconded. Would the sponsor like to speak? Mr. Davis.
I have a question for the planning department. Now, by record, this zoning was approved by the planning commission, correct? How many units is this project approved for?
So this is a request to rezone to MULA. MULA does not have a maximum number of units per acre. It's instead driven by required parking and floor area ratio. So that'll be more determined by the developer at the time, or he or she submits plans to the Metro Codes Department for permit approval.
Not knowing for sure, if I'm familiar with this property, it's a full city block, which will probably means a lot of density and a lot of activity and traffic, correct?
Yes, that could be the case.
That could be the case. And so maybe looking up from 100 to possibly 200 units, maybe.
That's possible. The floor area ratio here is a 1.0, and this site is approximately 0.8 acres, so it's about 30 to 35,000 square feet. So that'll be the driver as to how many square feet someone can develop, and then it's just up to the developers.
Basically, what they can legally park by code standards.
Correct, that too.
All right, I'd like to move for approval. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sir, been moved. Is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-106, sponsor is Sledge. This changes 5.52 acres from IR to MULA zoning for properties located at 370 and 380 Heron Drive. The sponsor is here. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion is approved. Next is BL 2016-107. Sponsor is Anthony Davis. This makes provisions to 163.75 acres of the Inglewood Place Neighborhood Conservation Zoning Overlay to various properties located along Gulf Street, Greenwood Avenue, Howard Avenue, Inglewood Circle North, Inglewood Circle South, Jakes Avenue, Catherine Street, Kennedy Avenue, Kirkland Avenue, McChesney Avenue, Oxford Street, Riverside Street, Shelton Avenue, and Stratford Avenue. Mr. Davis. I understand there's another substitute for us. Hold on. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's an amendment to the substitute. Is that correct, Mr. Jamison? So if someone...
Second substitute.
Oh, is it a second substitute? Okay. So if someone on the committee would move the second substitute for me, then I can...
Great. It's been moved and seconded.
Yeah, I just wanted, we just took out a few more remaining addresses that we needed to clean up, housekeeping there. But yeah, I think we've built good consensus. You saw the emails today. Everything went great at all the public hearings, and we're ready to move this forward for Inglewood. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-108, sponsor is Hastings. This changes .72 acres from RS10 to SP zoning for property located at 3312 John Mallett Drive to permit up to 11 detached residential units. The sponsor is here, Mr. Hastings. Yes, sir. You're live.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask for approval for this project.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I do see some council members who would like to speak. Mr. Davis, Anthony Davis, you're from the last bill, is that correct? Yeah. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I do not serve on your committee, so are there any other committee members that?
Let me get Councilmember Johnson, and then you can
Thank you.
Speak after her. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask a few questions. The email, some question about this project came in as late as Friday, so just wanted to make sure all the concerns and everything is addressed prior to us approving this SP, because this SP seemed to be a specific site plan, and if there was some specific concern can be added to this bill, now would be the time. So I just wanted to make sure we can be done, nothing is missing, not addressed before we pass the bill.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson, and then I'll come back to the sponsor.
I have similar concerns or questions. My questions were going to be a little more specific. Is Councilman Hastings going to respond first to Ms. Johnson with some update on this bill, or would he prefer me to ask some specific questions now?
We'll let him answer.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Hastings. Oh, I turned you off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Council Lady Johnson, she and I actually spoke earlier today on this plan. This plan was attached to another that was out with the community that went forth, and I'm sure a lot of you remember the apartment plan that was off of Clarksville Highway. Of course, with all the people that we have in our districts, we're not going to get 100% of approval. But the young ladies, we have spoken to them with the email. I have spoken to them on several times myself. We actually laid out for the individual developer. The only thing that came back with that was the only way that we can be pleased when I asked the question, how can we work this out for you? They said to me is that the project doesn't go forth because it's not what they want for their corner. That is what's going on with that. I replied to the individuals to let them know that that is not my project. In the whole community has had the opportunity to say what they needed to say. There has been several different plans that go on with that, but this is my district, and I have to go forward with the development. This is a housing complex. We need more housing in the city. There is not, right now, like I said, there are people homeless in the city who work every day, and if we are going to go back and forth and go because you don't necessarily want this side or this corner, when the developers are working the plan, we'll never get anything done. So we have addressed that. I have spoken to the young ladies who wrote the emails to you, and that is where we're going to go. We're looking forward to the opportunity to where we can meet all the needs of everyone in our community, but I really do think this is a really good project for our district.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson.
And when you say the young ladies from whom we received an email, are you referring to Ms. Dawn Majors and Ms. Tanya Norfleet?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Are those the same women who came to speak at the public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were unaware of the public hearing?
No, they were aware of the public hearing. There were several different conversations that happened in the midst of that. Now, I don't know what they, I can't recall all of the conversations that went on, but we all know there's a first reading, second reading, and the third reading.
Well, not all community members know that.
Well,
You're aware.
it is, well, if asked, we let them know that the hearing is open, and that is where it is on that sector. You know, we, as individuals, again, this is the district that we are working in. We have to go forth in meeting the needs of our community and the people.
Okay,
It has been laid out.
Can I ask both of y'all to address the chair?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
I apologize.
Mr. Hastings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I apologize. I guess my question would be to Councilman Hastings, Madam Chair, if he indicates that he has spoken with Ms. Majors and Ms. Norfleet. My understanding from their emails is they live adjacent and across from this development. They mentioned some particular and specific concerns. They indicated that they were not opposed to this project. And so my question, for purposes of this committee's discussion, is has there been a conversation with them that is specific to their concerns, that are legitimate concerns from someone living adjacent to such a project, i.e. fencing, screening, landscaping? This is an SP within which those can be addressed. They mention those current concerns specifically, and I just think it's incumbent upon us as council members to address those who are immediately adjacent and affected, to engage with them particularly and specifically to make sure their concerns are addressed. So I'm hopeful he can respond to that, please, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilwoman, we did speak on the issues of fencing and you know, the plants, the runoffs, the sidewalks, all of that stuff with everyone that is around, including the young ladies who wrote the emails to us. We talked with them, but again, when it came back to what was said, they told the developer, "Oh no, that's not what we want." Then we came with a resolution that we will get those things done to where your property is going to be okay. That is what we'll do. And he came and said, listen, this is what we're going to do, fencing and also a shrubbery to separate this development from your actual property. Again, I don't know what else to say on that one other than this is a process that has been working, has been worked on. We have reached out to all the people in the community. I know exactly where the constituents live, and the other constituents that are even closer to this development didn't necessarily have an issue because that is actually a part of the plan on building areas to where it's not affecting their properties.
Thank you. I'll let a
Thank
couple
you.
more council members speak. Mr. Coleman, did you want to speak, or have your questions been answered?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to ask the Planning Commission staff, have you all heard this particular plan?
Yes, sir. This was approved at the December 10th Planning Commission.
Right. Did you all have any concerns that you wanted the council person to address in the plan, sir?
I believe that the conditions of approval pertaining to architectural standards and even a landscape buffer along the eastern and northern property line were either included on the plan or included in the council bill.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, my question is for Councilman Hastings. Councilman Hastings, did you hold a community meeting and send out invites to people within, I always say, a 4-mile radius of all 4 squares of the property so that the neighbors can address it in a public forum rather than one-on-one?
Mr. Hastings.
Yes, sir, we did. This plan went right along with the other plans that we had because there are several plans that were going on in the district also adjacent to where this property is. We have had several meetings along with the Bordeaux Chamber Group that has just been established there in the community at the YMCA. There has been several that have went on.
Okay, so just to follow up, I want to be clear. This specific property that the neighbors have written us about, you've had a community meeting concerning this particular zoning?
Yes, sir, I have.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little bit concerned as well, Councilman Hastings, because I hear you say that you all did meet and they talked, but it was not clarified if it was actually a compromise or if the constituents were satisfied with the conditions that the developer promised. And I'd like to know if the developer's promise were put in writing, his promises were put in writing to make sure that they will be done once the project is approved.
Councilmember Hastings.
Councilwoman Hurt, as the planning department has just spoken, that was a part of their original plan. That is what they approved the plan on. So there is no different segue than what was submitted to the planning department beforehand. So there are buffers, there are plants, there are other things that'll be going to separate themselves, this development, from the other properties. There is no different layout. So I'm not necessarily sure, but they approved it because it was already set, and that is what I go off of.
Councilmember Johnson, did you wish to speak again?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify. I think planning said fencing and buffer is already addressed, and is it in the final SP plan and SP condition? The reason I'm asking is everybody, in this body would like to introduce good development and would like to support district council person. That's the intent. So, and also when we see some concern from the neighbor, naturally we as a council member are concerned. So we just wanted to make sure everything is satisfactory to the bill and to the neighbors, and all the condition is addressed adequately.
So the plan as currently presented does require a C3 landscape buffer along the northern and easterly property lines, which are the only property lines that abut properties rather than right-of-way. And a C3 would require a 20-foot buffer of canopy trees, understory, and shrubbery. Does not require a fence.
Thank you.
Councilmember Murphy.
My machine I couldn't pull up the site plan, but I think I just got it answered. So there is going to be the landscape buffering, but the fence, was a fence agreed on and the neighbors are asking for a fence and there just isn't one in the plan, or have I gotten confused in the details?
Councilmember Hastings.
Yeah. The neighbors actually, they are, the information that is coming from the individuals that wrote the email, they're saying that, yes, they looking at a fence, but then they came back and said, no, we don't want a fence. We want to be able to, we don't want our neighborhoods to look like, we're in jail or whatever else. So that is the buffer of this plan is to my understanding, is sufficient to fulfill this actual plan that's going on within our district. I would appreciate your support. I thank you for asking questions because it gives me another view, and then also knowing to have ask more questions in the process of me working with these developers. This is not the only development that is coming forth, and I pray that I'm not going to be in a tussle every time I come forward with a development, because there will be people that will email, and I'm sure some of you know, that will fight against some things. But I can for sure you, I have had meetings. The planning department did approve this. There's buffers, there's other things. Now, how high the fence and how high the buffers, that is not my area of expertise. But what I want to provide is a clean and safe neighborhood for my whole district.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, did you wish to speak?
I don't mean to pick on you, Brandon. And excuse me, Councilman Hastings, for interfering in your district just for a second, sir. Brandon, all right. In this SP plan that Planning Commission approved, does it have buffers in there? Fencing, shrubbery, or any kind of buffers in there?
It requires a C3 landscape buffer, and that would be required with the final site plan. But to clarify, a C3 landscape buffer, as per the code, does not require a fence.
And if I listened correctly, and Councilman Hastings, please correct me if I'm wrong, there were some concerns about fencing because people didn't want to feel like that they were in prison or in a jail cell or something like that. Sir, am I correct?
Yes, sir. That is one of the concerns because it's not beautifying our area. It's not beautifying the area. It just, I don't know exactly what everyone is looking for, but that is something that our community is not looking for at this time.
All right, and basically, the buffer that you're putting in there does provide protection, but it's not a fence, which is what the community wanted, right?
The C3 buffer does not require a fence. That's correct.
Yes, which could be all kinds of nice landscaping and plant stuff, right? I'm not a botanist, so excuse me.
That's correct. It just requires canopy, understory, and shrubs.
You can do a bill to cure cancer, and you'll have 5 to 6 people against it. So push on. I am asking for this floor to follow councilmatic courtesy with this approval from planning to allow this development to go through. The thing is, you're always going to have people complain about anything you do, but it is your neighborhood. If you don't want a development down a busy corridor in your neighborhood, that's your prerogative. That is your business. And so I am asking, all of us, yes, ask questions, yes, but this is your show, and I'm going to support you on this. So whatever you want to do, I got you. And I'm going to ask every member of this chamber to do the same, because the main thing is, you're going to have anything you do. I mean, people complain about certain people because they look better in a dress than they do. We hear it. I mean, it's just a fact. So I'm sorry, Chair, but please continue, sir, with your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Councilmember Vercher.
Yeah, just for clarity, thank you, Madam Chair. Community meetings were held after the public hearing when the members of the community came and expressed their concerns.
Yes, Councilwoman, community meetings were held.
After that public hearing meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
My second question, was a planning representative there also to ask or address any questions that the neighbors may have had at that subsequent meeting after the public hearing, and or the developer?
The developer was there, but not a planning representative.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is, yes, you can. Bill is approved. Thank you for the thoughtful discussion. Next is BL 2016-111. Sponsor is Dowell. This changes 23.8 acres from AR2A to RS 7.5 for properties located at 12740 and 12784 Old Hickory Boulevard and Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered. Is the sponsor here? We will move that to the heel and hope she's on her way. I do not have a letter that I'm aware of. Next is BL 2016-112, sponsors Withers and Davis. This makes provisions to 20.47 acres of the contextual overlay district to various properties located along Highview Drive and Lethia Drive. Sponsor is here. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is recommended. Next is BL 2016-113, sponsors Withers. This makes provisions to 71.28 acres of the contextual overlay district to various properties located along Barclay Drive, Fortland Drive, Hody Drive, Huntley Drive, Noonan Court, Noonan Drive, Payton Drive, and Riverside Drive. Mr. Withers. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is approved. Next is BL 2016-114, sponsor is Pulley. This amends 2.08 acres of the Metro Nashville Teachers Apartment Specific Plan District for property located at 2209 Abbott Martin Road to allow seasonal outdoor retail sales as a permitted use where multifamily restaurant, a cellular communications tower, and a personal care service uses are currently permitted. And the sponsor is here. We have a motion and a second. All right, Mr. Pulley. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Absent that, I will ask for your approval.
Any discussion? Councilmember Sledge? Yes, sir.
Councilman, what does this do?
I'm happy to tell you, but before I do that, I want to tell you that this surrounds one of, if not the only, workforce affordable housing structure in Green Hills, which is the Retired Teachers Apartment Center. Right in the middle of this really expensive property, we can actually rent and lease apartments to people in the $500 a month range. So what they do is, in the parking lot area, there's been an Amish group that comes and sells fruits and vegetables to the community during the season. And what we have understood from that lately is that's a violation of the code. So what we did is amended the ordinance to enable that to happen.
Good. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-115. Sponsor is Hurt. Go, Councilmember Hurt. This changes .78 acres from R40 to ON zoning for property located at 3643 Old Clarksville Pike. The sponsor is here. Do we have a motion? And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2016-116. Sponsor is Kendall. Changes .29 acres from IR to RM20A zoning for properties located at 801, 803, and 811 21st Avenue North. I have a letter asking for deferral. Is there a motion? That was a motion to defer? Yes. Okay, we have a motion to defer. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is deferred. We will go back and pick up two bills that were moved to the heel. Whoops, sorry. I apologize. Next is BL 2016-117. Sponsor Syracuse, Freeman, and others. This amends the Metro Zoning Code to designate flex loan and installment loan as uses permitted with conditions and adding conditions applicable to these uses. Is there a substitute? No. Hold on. There is no substitute. Yes.
No, but I'm going to ask for a deferral for 2 meetings for this bill.
Is there a second? We have a motion to defer for 2 meetings. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is deferred. Defer. Now we will go back to now we will take up Bill BL 2016-125. Sponsor is Karen Johnson. This amends the Metro Code to designate additional geographic areas as rental inspection districts. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded, and we have the sponsor here. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will entertain any questions at this time, if anyone has any.
Any questions? No? There are no questions? All those
okay. And I will ask to move for approval with a brief explanation.
All right. Councilmember?
For the viewing audience in District 29, I just want them to understand, because they do not see the analysis that we see, that this is adding to the already 12 rental inspection districts that were created in 2007. What this does is places more periodic inspections and addresses properties that have become a nuisance. And so the properties in my area around the Castlegate, Holder Drive, and Wesleyville area, which are the quadruplexes that are mixed in between single-family homes that currently lack maintenance. These are being added so that we can see some improvement and more regular periodic inspections in that area. This is also, the original bill is set to expire in 2017, so I will be bringing this back before the council and requesting that be extended. So with that, I move for approval.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Those recommended.
Thank you.
And we have one more. Next is BL 2016-104. Sponsor is Hastings. This changes .34 acres from RS10 to CSA zoning for property located at 329 Homestead Road. And we do have the sponsor here. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill's recommended. Great. This concludes our docket. Is there one more? Did Council Lady Dial ever arrive? We will defer that by rule. All right. The committee is Councilmember Johnson. One moment.
120 through 122.
Is that by Councilmember Dowell? I do not have those on this agenda. We've already approved them previously. Anything else? I'm going to wait. Okay, we'll hold it. Okay, committee is adjourned.